Hey everybody, this is Greg with Medical Muscle, and I'm talking about my favorite topic that I get asked all the time. How do you study for St. George University? Okay, so there's a formula that I've used and it's worked very well. So prior to starting school, I want you guys to get comfortable with what kind of study method you're gonna do. Are you gonna do Anki? Okay, so if you're gonna use Anki, it would be very smart to download it early and get used to the program because it can be a little confusing at first. All right, get your iPad set up, get all your note-taking things set up so that when school starts, all that stuff is nice and smoothed out. All right, now prior to school, SGU did this for my term. I don't know if they do it this term, but they gave us like lecture material that we should review prior to starting term one. That stuff is like cell bio, genetics, a little bit of biochemistry, all the stuff that you will see in term one and terms following. It's just basic information. So if they don't do that, you can Google that stuff, look it up, just review the basics. Really important so that when you start the first day, you have kind of a heads up, right? All right, now the actual lecture material. How are you gonna hit it? We'll say lecture starts Monday, right? So what are you gonna do? Sunday, the day before the first day of school, you're going to pre-read the lectures, all right? And what do I mean by pre-read? You are skimming. You're not trying to learn. You are literally just blasting through. You're just seeing what the topic is that you are going to cover. It's just reviewing it. Look at it. 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes would be ideal. Shouldn't take you any longer than 45 minutes per lecture, okay? Just skimming it. That also includes directed learning activities, DLAs, that SGU has you do outside of regular lecture material. So you're just skimming that stuff. That's Sunday. Then you go to lecture, right? You're going to lecture. They're going to present the information. For me, I didn't do notes. It just didn't work for me. But what a lot of people like to do is have an iPad out with the lecture slides and make little notes on that. That's fine. For me, I would just try to listen. Like say I was doing my pre-read of that lecture slide and there was something that just didn't make sense. That's the time when I'm trying to like listen in on when, there was something that wasn't clear and I'm just trying to pick up on what they say. Okay, so lecture's done. What do I do after lecture? My post-read, that is where that's the make or break. That's where you're gonna collect all that information, consolidate it, and understand it. That's the real learning, heavy lifting time, okay? So, I have the lecture slide out. I have the lecture slides out, and I go through every single topic meticulously, and I use an outside resource to get a better understanding of that topic. All right, so I loved Boards and Beyond and Pathoma. Some people like Sketchy. I didn't like Sketchy, but use some kind of resource. There's tons, okay? You find your favorite YouTuber. There's a bunch of them. Any of those topics. And it's nice to hear another version of what SGU presents because yes, the people at the school are the ones making the tests and the way they ask, the way they teach the material is how they want you to be prepared for the exams, but sometimes they don't add certain pieces of information that make it easier to understand what they're talking about. So see an outside resource. You can use First Aid. That's a great one, right? Just a quick sheet. So I'm watching these videos, these external videos, and I'm just clicking every topic that they talk about in that lecture. And during that time, I also will throw in a couple Anki cards. I'll make some Anki cards of that material so that, like, say if something seems important and I might not, memorize it easily, like say if it's just some fact that requires you to remember something, right? Like certain genes, they just have a certain sequence. You just have to know that, right? So I'd make an Anki card of that. All right, so that's part of my post-read. Now, this is a crucial piece, and this is the part I think most people skip, which is the most important. Now it's using that information to answer questions. So every single night, not joking, you're gonna do a minimum of 10 questions, minimum. Maximum 20. You don't wanna be doing too many. But you're just gonna be going through IMCQ questions. You're going to go through old quizzes. You're going to go through Sakai. You can go through other testing kind of things for questions. And you're just going to do questions. And you're going to see how this information is going to be presented on a test. That's huge. You know, you can study lecture material like crazy, but oftentimes you can put all this effort into trying to understand the material when in reality, they're never going to ask that as a question. It's just part of the STEM. Okay, so you don't need to memorize everything. That's what the questions are about. It's about being efficient. They allow you to see what you actually need to know. Okay, what you actually need to memorize and what is just going to be given to you as part of a STEM. All right, just for example, on a lecture, they're going to give you the average value of certain things. And they're going to say, you need to know this. And that's correct. But on the actual test, you may be given those lab values in the lab sheet. So, right? So you may not have to actually memorize that number. But you won't know what you need to memorize and what you don't until you start doing practice questions. I say do them with a friend. Keeps you guys accountable. That's fantastic. Something I did throughout term 1 to like term 3 is meeting up with other students and like quizzing each other. I think that's great, especially going into the exam. Like the last week, you guys just go through every single lecture. So now this is the 3rd pass, right? So we did the pre-read, well, 4th pass. We did the pre-read, you went to the lecture, you listened to it, then you did your hardcore post-read, right? And then you did your questions on that topic. So maybe that's 4 passes, right? The 5th pass is you're going to go through every single lecture, like a week and a half, whatever, prior to the exam, maybe about a week prior to the exam. You're going to go through every single lecture. It should be pretty quick. You're just blasting through stuff, making sure that you haven't forgotten anything. And you can do this with a study partner. So you and your friend, one person has the lecture on their computer and they're looking at it and you can't see it. And they're just going to ask you questions. Remember this? Remember, what is this? What is this? What is this? Okay. And then you guys switch. Then you do the next lecture and you kind of ask the questions. That way you guys can like discuss and talk about any things that, you know, maybe one person understands that you didn't and vice versa. So it's reciprocal. It's really good. All right. And other than that, those are the big pieces on how to be successful. Get your shit together early before the term starts. You know, do a little bit of studying before, even before exams start and next exam block. It's always good to get a little head start. Pre-read. You know, listen on lectures if there's something that you don't really understand. The post-read, you have some external resources that's covering any missing information that the lecture didn't cover that would help with your retention and your understanding. Not UWorld, First Aid, Boards and Beyond, Pathoma, Sketchy, something like that. Then you're going to do questions every single night. And that's basically it. That's all there is. You know, obviously you have lab exams that you got to do. Those, you know, and OSCEs where you got to, you know, do the mock patient encounter. Those you're just going to kind of throw in. You can study those however you want. Just study them. But for all in all, that's the formula on how you're going to kick ass every single term. You know? So, guys, I hope you're consistent with your work. I hope you keep pushing it. And I wish you the best of luck.